So as a health practitioner, I'm starting to observe as I work with more and more people that emotions really play the biggest part in their healing process.
Emotions don't play the biggest part, except that they are indicators of what does play the biggest part.
Right. So trying to get beyond the what's going on to the why it's going on, from a more quantum vibrational frequency, and I'm just noticing that more and more of the physical dense remedies and stuff that I work with are becoming obsolete, so to speak. And so as you're a professional in this profession, and you're moving forward, and you're making these observations, and you're continuing to work with people, and yet the powers that be are negating what...
The powers that be that you are speaking of are irrelevant. Okay. The powers that be are held within the individual. Right. And that's what we were just talking about here today. The only power that bees that matters at all is the power to align with the fullness of who you are. Right. And when you do, you thrive.
Right. So
those other powers that bees are powers that want to be.
Right. So moving beyond the FDA and the FTC.
So from this point forward, let's call them the powers that want to be.
Okay. Excellent. Right.
The wannabe powers. The wannabe. Right. The wannabes. The wannabes. Seriously, we're not pushing against them. We're wanting to help you to dissolve your resistance about them, because they hold no power. They're not holding you apart from anything that you want to accomplish with any of the people who come to you for remedy.
Right.
Those powers that be have no power.
Okay.
Your client, your patient, your person who has come to you holds all of the power, 100% of it, and you know how to unlock it.
Right. So as a practitioner, being able to see energy since I was a very small child, it's more about the energy that I see, kind of like when you're calling people up, and bringing that more and more to the forefront in the practice and the work that I do, and more of the intuitive information that comes through, and kind of stepping my ego out of the way and just let the information come to me.
Well, before you go further, we want to hear you further and fully, but we want to stick something in here that will give us a good basis for what comes next.
Sure.
So if a person is vibrationally out of whack, and that's really what illness is.
That's what I see.
They're vibrationally out of whack. Life has caused them to ask for more than they are allowing, and they've got a tension, a vibrational tension within them that is evidenced in two ways. The first way is they're sick. Well, that was actually the second way. Showed up second. The first indication was the vibrational indicator of emotion. So if they have stress or frustration or anger or angst, and they don't address it and do something to change the focus that softens that, if they live in the real world with the wannabe powers that surround them, what often they do is they just put up with the tension. They deal with it. They stuff it. They accept it as reality. And so they become immune to it in the same way that they're becoming immune to many of the medicines that are being offered. They are also immune to their emotional guidance system that is letting them know that there is an attitudinal adjustment that could be helpful. So those are the two primary ways. Now you are indicating, oh, but there's a third way. I can see their energy. And we say, yes, but just as they know they've got negative emotion and they know that they're sick and you can see the condition of their energy, all of those indicators after the fact are just indicators that help you to understand why you're not thriving. But the what to do about it is much better applied before the manifestation than after the manifestation.
Right.
So the thing that's tricky for you is that if you are interacting with people who come to you after the manifestation, so all the indicators are there. They've got a sickness, check that off the list. They've got negative emotion, which is compounded because they're sick. Check that off the list. And their energy looks terrible as you view it. Check that off the list. And we say, so what do we have? Well, we've got a sick person on our hands, don't we? Mm-hmm. But when you say you want to talk about it deeper, we want We want to talk about it in terms of energy and in terms of energy only. We don't want to talk about the symptoms of the energy. So it doesn't matter what the sickness is, how severe it is, how high or low it is on the death chart that has been, in other words, the mortality chart. How sick are you? Are you going to die? Yes, for sure, you are. You're going to have a croaking experience. The question is, can you gain your vibrational balance? That's the only question. Can you gain your vibrational balance? And talking about the illness, diagnosing the illness, looking at the illness, probing around at the illness, making notes about the illness, anything that has to do with the illness is counterproductive. And in like manner, anything that has to do with acknowledging the emotion is counterproductive too, in the sense that saying to someone, hey, you've got a bad attitude, is no more helpful than saying, hey, I can tell by this diagnosis of tests that you have an illness. What you want to say to them is, you are a vibrational being who has the ability to bring your vibration back into alignment, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And everything else will fall into place. These 3 indicators that I'm aware of, which is the color of your aura, which is the tenor of your emotion, you cranky one, and the diagnosis on my medical chart, all of these things are only indicators of that. And that is what I want to talk about, you say to them. I want to talk about vibration. Period.
Right.
And until scientists and doctors and physicians and anyone who cares about their physical apparatus at all, until you accept that you are a vibrational being, period, a vibrational being who has physical ramifications of your vibration, period. And until you are willing to accept that, then you are on a wild ride.
Right.
Because when you turn on the television, they will throw at you in an evening of watching television so many remedies that have little or nothing to do with you that your head will begin to spin.
Right. So being in this profession, coming up with a strategy that's leading edge and moving forward and can be a greater assistance to the folks that I work with, what's a good strategy for that?
Well,
because I tend to, I'm really seeing myself really move away from the more gross physical matter kind of things and help my clients to really understand just what you just said about vibration and starting at that, have that be the starting point as opposed to living a diagnosis instead of living your experience.
The thing that's interesting is that with anyone that you're interacting with, there's the interaction between the two of you going on. But there's a more important interaction going on, and that's the interaction between them and their inner being. That's the interaction between them and who they really are and what they really want and how well they really are. So as a facilitator, your work, your only work that is of real value to your patient is to acknowledge that relationship between them and to let everything you utter be about soothing that.
Great.
About soothing that. That's all. So you could start out, and also, we understand that you're dealing with a lot of people that are not necessarily ready to acknowledge themselves as vibrational beings living in a vibrational universe. They want to talk about the physicality of it. So you can break it down in a physical way by talking about it from an emotional standpoint rather than from a vibrational standpoint. Mm-hmm. You can really build that bridge in a powerful way. But we would, if we were addressing someone and we were seeing them for the first time, we would say, tell me, speaking from your point of view, tell me how you feel.
Right.
And as they start describing physical symptoms, we would interrupt them pretty soon, within 30 seconds of them beginning to describe what hurts or what isn't functioning right. And we would say, let me clarify. I mean, how do you feel? And they would go on to tell you that the toe is throbbing or whatever is going on physically, and then listen briefly again and say, wait, let me be clear. What I'm really asking is how you feel. Until you have their attention, until they're ready to say, what do you want from me? I'm trying to tell you how I feel.
Right.
And then what you want to say to them with everything that you have and everything that you know, full version of who you are. I want you to understand that how you feel emotionally has everything to do with everything that's playing out in every other way. So when I say, how do you feel? I'm talking about, how do you feel, usually? Are you happy? Are you high on life? Are you eager? Do you feel frisky? Do you feel robust? Do you feel happy about life? Are you worried about money? Are you worried about your kids? Are you fearful about something? Are you under a lot of stress? I want to know how you feel. Because how you feel, this is all we have to work with, say to them. How you feel is everything. I have to help you find a way of feeling better before the manifestations are better. You want me to just give you something that makes the symptoms of your emotional imbalance go away. I can't do that. No one can. Look what's going on. We are more technologically advanced, more medically advanced than ever before, and we are sicker as a people on this planet. Because we are not tending to what matters. I want to know how you feel, and that's what I want to help you with, you see.
Right.
Now, how does that feel to you?
Well, that feels totally great and accurate.
What would someone say back to you?
Taking them to that level?
Once they're there.
Well, that's a really nice intellectual construct. But how do I translate that into my physicality?
This is what.
Right.
So.
And I try to explain to them that, here we are, spiritual beings. We're spiritually and vibrationally induced, and chemically and electrically driven, and then biologically carried out. So
well, that's beautiful.
How do we get to the higher
Those are
level?
beautiful words. But you might consider something like this. Physicians, they were perfect words, and we would use every one of those. You might say to them that as a medical practitioner, I see a lot of people. And I know for sure. Nothing changes unless there is an emotional shift.
Yes.
And when there is an emotional shift, everything changes, and everything changes for the better. And so, for years, this profession of mine, in an effort to categorize everything and pigeonhole everything, we've been missing the most important thing, which is you are an individual. You are a unique individual with unique desires and unique allowance of those desires. And only you can bring yourself into alignment, but I can help you. And we would just keep talking in those terms, in those confident, I know exactly what to do. I can lead you to where you want to be. I can show you exactly how to get there terms until you hear from them. How?
Right.
Until you hear from them, until you have evoked with them, in them. You see, if you've been listening to us for a while, you have to understand that that's what we do every single time. In other words, we're bringing you up to speed with what we know. This gathering, those listening, are, for the most part, up to speed with what we know. There isn't anyone listening that doesn't know that emotion is everything. Now, you might not know exactly what to do about it because you are wrapped up in the thoughts that are going on around you, but everyone who is listening is accepting that your emotions are the key, not just to your recovery, but to your robustness.
Right.
Not just to your recovery, but to your clarity, to your fun, to your joy, for your love of life, for your, what would be the point of being in this magnificent body, in this perfect time-space reality, with the energy that creates worlds pouring through you, accessible to you, for the creation of whatever you want, if you don't feel good in your body? What's the point of any of it if you don't feel good, you see? And so, it's really interesting that your physical apparatus is the vessel through which this energy flows. But the cells of your body are individually summoning. And if left to their own devices, you would thrive. So the biggest message that you want to get across to people is that if you'll stay out of the way, your body knows what to do.
Absolutely.
And talk to them from a medical standpoint that you can do everything in the world, but unless that wound, unless the cells of the body are cooperating, that wound is not going to heal. And it usually does. It's just amazing what the physical body is capable of doing. Take them back to that petri dish smear of whatever they were in the beginning and say to them, you look at that little glob that you were in the beginning, and now I look at all that you've become, all of the intelligence that's in that body, all of the intelligence that's in those cells. Your body has the ability to be well. I know this with everything that I am, you want to say to them.